Your plan has to be really sharp, very focused, and you've got to get the attention of the investor. Out of 10 people that present to 10 investors, the investors may not invest in any of those companies. They may invest in one. They will never invest in all 10. That's for sure. It's never happened. I know. So your job is to be the one. If there's only one picked, your job is to be that one. So having understood that, what does that mean? So you need to know what basically turns VCs on, right? I mean, we know they're in it for the money, but what is it really that they want? So what they want is, I think, fairly simple. They need to understand the plan that you present to them. And remember, you only have 10 minutes. So they need to understand the plan. They need to understand that it's feasible, right? That's going to work. And they need to understand how much money they're going to make, which way the strategy is going to be. So it's really the same as when somebody from a mutual fund comes to you and says, hey, invest 2 lakhs in this fund, right? You're going to look at all these pages and papers and graphs and charts, and you're going to say, your history wasn't good, and this wasn't good, I don't like your team, I don't like your company, right? So the investors, the VCs are the same. You and I are in that position where you've got to share all this information, all the charts, all the numbers, what you've done in the past, what you're going to do in the future. You've got to share that in 10 minutes, right? So you need to explain about yourself. You need to explain your current resources, the growth opportunities, the sustainable competitive advantage. I mean, that's a really overused 3 words, sustainable competitive advantage. There's some other words like unfair advantage. But at the end of the day, the investor just needs to understand that you're going to be able to carry out what you say you're going to carry out. Right? That your team is good and they're going to make money. I guess one more point. We can talk about exits. We can say, well, we're going to exit 100 crores or $100 million. That's exciting, but it's just like any number they put there. It's all about the team, and I keep coming back to this, but really it's all about the team and the feasibility of the plan. So for lenders, they're not really concerned in a multiple of 10 or 20 that the VCs are concerned about, the angel VCs are concerned about. Lenders really just want to know that you're going to be able to pay off their interest, right? And if you can't pay the interest off, then they can come after you. You have some security, and their losses are reduced. That's all they're concerned about. So when you present to a lender, you don't need to show them your exit and all that kind of strategy. You just need to show these, that you can pay off the interest. And they use simple ratios. I mean, they use a bunch of ratios, but in my mind, the 2 key ratios are the debt service ratio, which is basically will you have enough cash flow to pay back the interest and the principal. And they just need to know what your cash budget is, right? Everything else is pretty much the same as what you present to an investor in terms of your business plan. I think they call it the project report here when you go to the bank. Okay, so you're writing your business plan, and you're thinking, okay, I've done the revenues, I've got a spreadsheet, it makes money, but then you think, what if I'm asked about human resources? What if I'm asked about intellectual property? What if I'm asked about how I'm going to market or advertise or sell the product? Assuming that's not your expertise, you have to you have to get up to speed very quickly and gain that expertise. You really got to have a lot of hats on. You got to have a lot of hats on to be able to sell yourself to the investor. So the investor asks you about what's your marketing strategy. You should be able to say, like, in 1 second, think about it for a second and say. So the point is that you've got to understand all aspects of the business, not just about the one aspect or one idea you've got. I keep coming back to the scribbled piece of paper, but okay, so you kind of you've got your idea, you put your plans together, and you're thinking, well, in your mind, you're thinking, well, what am I going to do next, right? So I just want to talk about this with the various forms of presentation format that you should think about. So we've all heard of elevator pitches. Elevator pitches are about 3 minutes long, and I guess the reason it's called the elevator pitch, right, is that you go into the elevator, you meet somebody like VC, right, and you have 3 minutes, which must mean it's like a 200-story building, but you have 3 minutes to say whatever you want to say, get VC's interest, and come out and get the phone number or whatever, right? So that's really what the elevator pitch is. It's a brief, concise couple of paragraphs that you can quickly recite and gain the interest of prospective investor. It's really worth, once you've written the elevator pitch, it's really worth putting a camera on yourself and practicing about 50 times. Because each time you improve, and by the 50th time, you will be booked. By the 40th time, but I think it'll take 50 times. That's what I hear. It really takes a long time to be able to deliver a pitch in 3 minutes that grabs somebody's interest. The second one is oral presentation. The oral presentation is really that 10-minute presentation that I was referring to earlier. It's competitive. Again, it's competitive because you're there with many other people who are looking for funding, and you're in front of many VCs who want to invest. So that's the oral presentation. And the written and the internal plan, let me just go through that. Actually, I already talked about the elevator pitch. So the oral presentation needs to be a little bit entertaining, right? Because you don't want the VCs to fall asleep. It needs to be entertaining because you want them to remember you. Out of the 10 other presenters, you should be the one they remember. So, people say, wear a rose, wear something like a hat, wear something that's not silly, but that enables them to remember you, because there are going to be 10 people in a jacket like mine, and the VCs are going to forget who they are. So be a little different, be a little, entertaining. But don't be humorous. If you're humorous, you lose them. Just be a little entertaining. The idea here is that if they like what they hear, they will come back to you and they will ask for your business plan. The oral presentation is simply to get your foot in the door so that you have the opportunity to give out your business plan. It's normally like a two-page thing that you hand out at the same time as you're doing your presentation. And it has like an executive summary, it has some key graphs, and the decision-making benchmarks. And by the way, this is like a new product demonstration. Let's say you invented a new camera, which works without a shutter or something. I don't know. Sony have come up with a new camera that does some wonderful things. Then you should use at least 4 minutes out of the 10 minutes to demonstrate the product. that product will make them remember who you are. People normally don't bring a product to demonstrate these things. I went to one where this guy, and I've seen quite a few of these, and I'll just tell you which one I remember. I went to one where this guy had developed there was a little piece of metal, and it was supposed to go into your backbone if your vertebrae was fused. They took out the fused vertebrae and they put this thing in the middle, and it had a little spring in it. It was amazing. It was really amazing what it looked like and what it did. And out of the 100 that I have seen, that's the one I remember most today that I'm sharing with you. So bring something with you if you can. If you have, if it's put into your plan, bring something with you. So written presentation, as I mentioned, is really the one after the oral presentation. It's about it can be 20, 30 pages long. It covers about 12 major points, which I'll go into later on. And it should be well written. It should be in a sort of nice looking format. And it's really targeted for external people. And by that I mean not internal, and I'll talk about internal later on. There are a lot of companies today who write business plans for you. It's not that expensive. In the US you can get it done by students for about $2,000. In India I'm sure it's a lot less. And if you do go that route to have somebody write the plan for you, which I've never tried in India, but I think it's a good idea. Because you can focus on what you're doing, have somebody else write the plan. Just make sure you know it inside out, right? Because somebody else has written it, so you got to know it inside out. So the reason I had external stakeholders in the previous slide is because there's also internal presentations, right? So there could be people sitting in this audience who are making presentations to, their bosses in a company, like in a bank, in a manufacturing company, they're making presentations. So those presentations are also like business plans, right? They're focused. They need to get, you need to explain your point to the management, but they don't have all those, 10x returns and things like that. So, I used to work in Bank of America's Technology Corporation, and they had a huge project, which was about hundreds of millions of dollars project, and I had to justify the project. And I said, I don't know how to justify the project because there's no revenues, it's an internal project. And they said, well, just talk about, what monies you wouldn't spend if you didn't do the project, right? So it was a very simple, at the end of the day, it was a very simple cost-benefit analysis. So there's many ways of presenting what you do internally. Projects don't have to make money. They can just save you money. Okay, so I was talking about these 12 key topics. I'm not going to go through them because you can download a lot of this stuff, on the web. It's free. It's going to be much more understandable than me talking to you, telling you about it. I'll just tell you what the key points are. So obviously you're going to have a cover page. You need an exec summary, business description, business environment analysis, industry background, competitive analysis, marketing plan.